Basically, the brief I have today is to talk about the management of Lisfranc injuries. These are a heterogeneous group of ligamentous and osteoligamentous tarsometatarsal region injuries. And very honestly, until about 15 years back, or maybe even 10 years back, as a rule, most people were taught to treat it conservatively. So everything was at that level was not taken very seriously. I will not be talking about any details of anatomy because this is an advanced course, and we will also not be talking about missed and neglected injuries. Just a word about biomechanics. So there are biomechanics. There is a medial column consisting of the first ray, which is relatively having less mobility, a middle column consisting of the second and the third rays, which has minimal movement, and a lateral column consisting of the fourth and the fifth rays, which is relatively stable. So once you get any patient with pain in the midfoot after injury, there are 6 questions that will decide your plan of action. First, you have to confirm whether it's an injury or not. Then you have to investigate it further, decide your options, surgical or conservative, what will be your fixation options, approaches, protocol of your post-operative rehabilitation, etc. Now, there are certain Lisfranc injuries that even a blind person can see. Oh, dikhai deta hai, it's a very big swelling, X-ray pe dekhte ho, the whole thing is away. Those are easy things to diagnose. The trick is in trying to diagnose the subtle one, which you should not miss. So, of course, plantar ecchymosis, everyone knows about it. Now, X-rays should be taken weight-bearing only. On the AP view, an undisturbed medial border of the second metatarsal in line with the medial cuneiform. If there is any break or breach in this line, suspect it. You look at the distance between the two metatarsals, and you look at the medial border of the first metatarsal with the medial border of the medial cuneiform, and if there is any breach, you should suspect a Lisfranc injury. On an oblique view, don't look at the first and the second rays. Look at the third and the fourth rays, and identically you trace the line down from the medial border of the third metatarsal down, and if there is any breach at any point, you'll be able to isolate. But a weight-bearing lateral X-ray, if you see any breach in the dorsal line that is drawn over the tarsometatarsal region, suspect a Lisfranc injury. Stress test. So a pronation abduction stress test, and I will show, but I think probably in the acute phase, it is extremely painful. And so is the situation with weight-bearing films, but I'll come to that in a minute. So this is a 49-year-old lady, and she had you can see there is no bony injury that can be seen. All the bones seem to be normal, but a stress test very clearly shows you disruption of the first and the second metatarsals. Now, another patient. Now, this is an obvious case. One doesn't have to do a stress test. But for the heck of it, if you see the difference, you will be able to appreciate that a stress test would confirm the ligamentous problem. Now, this is a lateral view. Now, look at this, and I will be showing you four slides, one after another, and you will be able to appreciate a little bit of opening dorsally. Keep looking at it. Now, look at it. We go back one step, and again, and again. That's closed. That's open. Can you appreciate? It's very little, but you should be able to appreciate it on a lateral view. So, for the subtle Lisfranc injury, once there is tenderness at the tarsometatarsal region, one must proceed to, the best investigation would be an MRI. So, like the knee, lying x-rays lie. So you should have weight-bearing x-rays always. And everyone used to say that Lisfranc injuries are rare. I don't think so, because more than 20% of them were missed. So if you take the missed ones with the detected ones, you find that it's not as rare as it was previously believed. And especially those which do not have fractures, low energy, pure ligamentous ones can be only caught confirmed on an MRI. Now the concept of reduction. Now this is just like your key, your grooves in the key getting into the lock and opening it. So your second metatarsal should come into the groove between the medial and the middle cuneiform. And if it comes in that, then your reduction comes in correctly. So once you have confirmed that there is a Lisfranc injury, the next step would be see if it is a stable injury or an unstable injury. If it is a stable injury, then it is to be conserved 6 weeks of cast or non-weight bearing, whatever, and then gradually progressing to rehabilitation. If it is unstable, then the surgical option has to be thought of. Now, one word of caution: always keep diabetic neuropathy in your mind, because this could be a beginning of Charcot, or if it is a diabetic patient and this injury, it could precipitate one. So how do we define what is a stable injury? So if there is a non-displaced ligamentous injury with or without an avulsion fracture, which is confirmed on a weight-bearing film, then you consider this as a stable injury, or an undisplaced fracture through the basis of the first, second, or third metatarsals as well. In such a situation, a cast for 6 weeks, you may confirm with further x-rays serially, but always warn your patient that this is going to take 3 to 4 months before it recovers. The moment you tell a patient that there is no fracture, the patient's response is, "Has bach gaye?" And that is where they start taking all the liberties, and then at the end say, "Fracture bhi nahi hua, to bhi itna time lag gaya." So proper counseling is mandatory. Unstable injuries are those where there is a displacement of the tarsometatarsal joint of more than 2 millimeters. The swelling has to reduce before you go in to operate. You have mainly 3 options. I'll talk about it in the next slide. But primarily, either you are doing a closed reduction and a percutaneous screw, or an open reduction and internal fixation. So now there are fundamentally 3 ways of treating these: either a percutaneous fixation, as I said, with screws or wires. I'll be coming to that in the next few minutes. The open reduction and internal fixation is the gold standard. I have virtually stopped using K-wires completely because there is always a chance of displacement at some stage. Primary arthrodesis has also been recommended in pure ligamentous injuries. I have no experience of it till now. So the bottom line is, if you want a good result, you need a stable and accurate reduction of your Lisfranc joint. Approaches, depending on the fracture pattern, you may take 1 approach, 2 approach, anteromedial, anterolateral, that depends on you. And I'll now take you through 1 or 2 cases. This is a Myers. I have not taken the classification because at the end of the day, classifications would virtually put you off to sleep. Now the rule is, always start your fixation medially. Once you have got stability medially, then proceed laterally. When it comes to fixation, your medial fixation has to be strong fixation, rigid fixation, while the lateral fixation should be a flexible fixation. And this is in line with the biomechanics slide that I had shown, where the medial side is relatively stable as compared to the lateral side. So if you will see here, the medial side has been fixed rigidly. K-wires are holding the lateral side. That's your reduction. This is another patient I'm showing you. This is a 38-year-old male, road traffic accident. Look at the direction of the clamp. It is in line with the Lisfranc injury. So if you are holding your second metatarsal base and the medial cuneiform in this direction, you should be able to get a fairly good reduction. A bridge plate has been used because there is no fracture. So I've used a bridge plate, and now if you will see very clearly, there are 4 screws, 2 proximal, 2 distal. The locking screws have been used distally, and the non-locking screws have been used proximally, right? So that's the usual sequence that I would follow. Another patient. Now this is a patient where there is a intercuneiform ligament injury, right? So this is a Lisfranc with intercuneiform instability, and again we start medially, go laterally, and a separate screw for the intercuneiform instability have been used. So this is about 3 months post-operatively. You see, eyes will only see what the mind knows. So if you are not aware of the intercuneiform instability, you have done a Lisfranc, you are happy with it, but the patient would have persistent complaints at the end of the treatment. Coming to primary arthrodesis, there have been a few papers which have said primary arthrodesis gives fairly good result, to the extent that, 2 papers have said that the results are better with primary arthrodesis compared to fixation, and if there is a failure of fixation, you go to arthrodesis. But the indication would be a pure intra-articular fracture with significant comminution or ligamentous instability. So there is a very restricted role probably of primary arthrodesis here. Now, in all these patients that we have fixed, the post-operative protocol would be a non-weight-bearing cast for 6 weeks, and then gradually the patient rehabilitates. But remember, more the unstable the injury, more the columns involved in your injury pattern, more extended will your period of non-weight bearing. So don't stick to 6 weeks. When do you remove hardware? Because there are bridging plates, the plates can break. The patients have to be counseled beforehand that you see you will need early removal of plates. And if there is a transarticular screw, that is the Lisfranc screw, they may be removed after 6 months, but otherwise all other implants should come out in around 6 months' time. When you have done a primary arthrodesis, chances of implant removal are on the lower side because there is no abnormal mobility of the joint. Chances of breakage is less. Prognosis, of course, depends on the severity of injury and how well you have reduced the fracture. Now, if you have missed a fracture, whether it is a pure ligamentous one or not, then the patient would have a little bit of a compromise on result, although we have had fairly good results, and I have cases, but I'm not going to present here. But a good understanding of the local anatomy of the Lisfranc joint is important. That aids your surgical technique, tactics, etc. So to conclude, this can be missed, this injury can be missed, and so requires very careful thought in the mind that you have to look for it especially. Stress fuse may be required, but CT and MR scan is mandatory. The bottom line is accurate reduction, whether you do it open or you do it closed. And over the last about 15 years, the treatment of this heterogeneous group of injuries continues to evolve with newer developments coming every year, 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.